Poised for Exit is a show for business owners who want to achieve a successful exit based on their own terms. Your business exit will likely be the biggest financial transaction of your life, and for most, you'll have one shot at doing it right. The topics and guests we feature and the stories they share will provide valuable ideas and strategies to improve operations and grow enterprise value so you can achieve the best possible exit outcome. Now here's your host, award-winning certified exit planning advisor, Julie Keys.
Welcome, everyone, to Poised for Exit, the exit planning podcast show. Today's guest is the CEO and president of a family-owned company and leads the business as a non-family member. He's got some great advice and great stories to share, so please stay with us.
Right now, there's a record number of buyers looking for businesses, and many businesses are selling at a premium. To get a free, confidential business valuation so you'll know what your business might be worth, contact a broker at Sunbelt Business Advisors at 612-455-0880. We're Minnesota's largest seller of companies. Let us help you maximize your life's work. Call 612-455-0880 or visit sunbeltmidwest.com.
Are you looking to add enterprise value to your business through effective marketing? At Evolve Systems, we craft custom marketing strategies designed to achieve your goals. Our comprehensive approach covers everything from branding and digital awareness to advanced lead generation tools. Positioning a business to sell in today's M&A market is not only challenging, but can be difficult without the right marketing strategy. We capture your ideal audience with clear and effective brand messaging that drives more deal customers. Let's evolve your business together. Reach out to us at 651-628-4000 or visit evolve-systems.com to start the conversation today.
Selling your business may be the furthest thing from your mind, but that doesn't mean you should wait to plan. At TrustPoint, we understand the nuances that come with selling a business and are here to guide you. From unlocking tax efficiencies to minimizing risk, we'll develop the strategies to ensure you're prepared. So, when the time arrives, you'll be ready to enjoy the best years of your life. Learn more at TrustPointInc.com. That's TrustPointinc.com.
Hello, Poised for Exit listeners. We are here in the studio with Mike Moroz, who's the president and CEO of Walters Recycling and Refuse. Mike, welcome to Poised for Exit.
Thanks, Julie. Glad to be here.
I'm so glad that you could be. I was just sharing with our producer here before the show started that we met through Jon Keimig, who is the director of the Family Business Center there at UST.
Yeah, he's just doing amazing things there. That center has just exploded in growth. And great group of family businesses there.
Yeah, for sure. And your company is also a member? Yeah. Yep. I've been to several events there and always been impressed every time. And I think that the way that he does, how he directs his organization there is emulated by a lot of other family business centers across the country, actually.
Yeah, I know he's very well connected with a number of other similar centers.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you're a part of that because I'm sure it's been valuable for your firm.
Very, very, yes.
Mm-hmm. So you are in the garbage and recycling business. How did you find your way there? Tell us about your journey in business.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Now I'm a proud garbage man, but who would have thought that, given my background, I would ever be in that position? So very briefly, so I'm born and raised in the Twin Cities. Proud Gopher. I graduated in 1986 from the Carlson Business School. Mm-hmm. The first half of my career I spent I was in the direct-to-consumer world. So spent about, initially about 2.5 years with I don't know if you remember, Cable Value Network. So this was back in the late 80s, the days of Home Shopping Network, Cable Value Network, headquartered in Plymouth right near here.
Yeah.
And I was a marketing analyst for one of their divisions, which was COM, as a catalog and retail direct marketing business. I left there after about 2.5, 3 years. I was recruited to join a company called Daymark, which was two guys, Dave and Mark, very creative in how they came up with the name. We started another direct-to-consumer company, and they had graduated. They were both at CVN companies as well. I was there for about 14 years, and that's where I really had an opportunity to expand my business horizon and had the opportunity. I started in the marketing department, but really kind of went through the ladder and took on leadership roles throughout the entire business. And at one point in time, throughout my tenure there, ran every department other than finance.
Wow.
Learned a lot about finance, but that was one. We had a CFO, and so I learned a lot there. After that, unbelievable run. I joined Target Corporation.
Wow, what a
And
difference!
so I went from, so we grew Daymark to about 700 million.
Wow.
So it was, we were one of the largest direct marketers. Went to Target, and had I was there for about 5 years, and it was absolutely amazing. Target had they started a new operating division called Target Direct with the purpose and intention of getting Target.com started. So this was back in the late 90s.
Interesting.
And so I was a general manager of Target Direct, focused initially for the first couple of years. Target bought all of the assets of a company called Rivertown Trading, which was owned by Minnesota Public Radio. So they had a number of catalogs.
Sure.
At the time, no real e-commerce, but a lot of direct marketing. And they bought the assets, including warehouses, call centers, thinking that would be great to leverage that to start Target.com. And we found that there were some of those assets that made a lot of sense, the warehouse, call center, but some of the catalog assets didn't really make sense. So I was charged with figuring out how to sell those, and at the same time focus more from an operational standpoint on supporting the merchants and getting Target.com started.
Wow.
And at the time, Marshall Fields too, so Fields.com.
Sure.
And so it was a fantastic run. I learned so much, and working for a big corporation like that was fantastic. My boss at the time, a guy named Dale Nitschke, was just outstanding, and I learned a lot about working for a big organization, and that served me well.
How did you drive consumers to Target.com so early on when most people weren't familiar with the World Wide Web?
Right before I started, it was quite a lengthy recruiting process, but right before I started, Target made the decision to, instead of starting it 100% all internal, to partner with Amazon.
Wow.
And so in the early years, Target.com, the back-end engine, was powered by Amazon.
Really?
And so that really allowed for, off-the-charts growth immediately, because all that infrastructure didn't need to be built.
Wow.
Eventually that migrated, and it's now, all internal, but at the time that was the decision that was made. So it was pretty interesting.
Wow.
So from there I took a turn then. I was there for about 5 years, and I got a call from a recruiter, a private equity-backed company that was at the time headquartered here, called Archway Marketing Services, was looking for a president. And it was one of those opportunities. I loved what I was doing at Target, but took the call and met with them and talked to my wife after a couple of conversations, and we both just said, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. I need to take it. And so left Target, joined Archway, and worked for private equity guys and gals for almost 9 years. And we recapitalized the company once, and then ultimately sold the business, and it was a fantastic sale. And then I found myself out of work.
Sure.
After that sale, was doing a lot of networking.
Yeah.
Younger at the time, knew I loved to work, I loved business.
Yeah.
And I ended up talking to somebody networking who said, hey, I know somebody who's recruiting for a logistics position, in quotes.
Oh.
I'm like, okay, great. I understand logistics. So I had a conversation with the recruiter and found out it was a garbage business, waste and recycling business.
Sure, yeah.
And I thought, what do I want to do this for?
Yeah.
Had a few conversations with the recruiter and the owners. Greg and George Walter started the business, now 36 years ago. And they had an amazing process that they undertook to try and find somebody. They came to the realization, now this is it'll be 11 years in January, that they could grow the business only a certain amount. They were both at points in their life where they wanted to start stepping aside a little bit and do some other things in their life. So they thought, let's bring in an outside leader for the business. And so one thing led to another. Every time I met with somebody, I'd leave checking a box.
Sure.
Of, wow, this could be great, this could be great, this could be great.
Yeah.
They offered me the job. We hit it off, and away we went. And we've really grown that business. We're now the largest independent waste and recycling hauler in the state of Minnesota.
Wow.
And in the top 100, we think, tied with other companies, but probably in the 60, 70-ish largest independent hauler in the country.
That's
so
incredible.
A lot of growth, a lot of profitable growth, but a lot of fun.
Wow, that's incredible. So I remember, kind of dating myself here, many years ago when I was living in Maple Grove and my kids were still in school. So it was probably right around the time that Walters was getting started up, or soon thereafter. Got a knock at the door, and it was this older woman handing out brochures and trying to acquire new customers for Walters. And we switched. She convinced me.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. She was so nice, and she knew so much about the company. And I thought, startup company, local company, why would I not do that? And I was kind of mad at the competition anyway because of other things over the years. I thought, it's time for something new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful.
Very cool. Yeah. So let's talk about your plans for maybe at some point a transition, because everyone has to transition, and you're the cheese. So what does that look like for you guys in the future and for you? How are you working that out?
At this point, there's no desire to sell the business or to recapitalize the business.
Yeah.
We're now actually in our gen, what we call Gen 2. So
Sure.
the second generation, George and Greg's kids.
Okay.
And so as part of that continuum, it's mentoring and finding roles and opportunities for the next generation.
Yeah.
Which in and of itself brings some challenges as well.
Right. It would.
Yeah. But the great thing is with this organization, Greg and George and Greg's wife Lissa and George's ex-wife Sue just did outstanding work raising these kids. I've heard through the St. Thomas Business Center, talking to other family businesses, other friends who are part of family businesses, there can be tough waters where you have the next generation who either feels entitled or doesn't have the skills, but feels like, I need to run this business.
Right.
The Walter kids are impressive, hardworking, very smart. And so the challenge that I've had is, they're go, 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 go. What's the plan? What's the plan? What's the plan? Greg and George have been, we're not ready to make any big transitions yet. And so as the non-family leader
Sure.
of a family business kind of being caught between the two, we've ultimately worked that out. And through a lot of conversations, a lot of communication, a few years ago, we finally decided, as the kids both matured from a business standpoint, got different viewpoints as they all grew up and working in the business and taking different roles. Ultimately, some of them left the business, started their own, a very entrepreneurial family.
Sure.
But all sort of came to the realization that, this non-family leader makes a lot of sense.
It does.
It's a very tight family, very close, a lot of love in the family, but a lot of different personalities and all that kind of, all those nuances, right? Mm-hmm. But the one thing now everybody agrees on is this model really works. If one of the kids were to take my job and something would happen with the business in a negative sense, then it's like, okay, cousins and brothers and sisters are going, hey, dude, what's the deal? And now they can look at,
Sure.
now I'm a non-family member. I don't like to think of myself as a hired gun, but I'm a hired gun.
Right.
And so everybody realizes that model really works when you have the right dynamics
Yes.
between that leader and the family. And I think we've got that figured out.
Yeah, and therein lies the magic, right? Is having the right dynamics.
Yeah.
It really can work well. So the next generation is in leadership roles now, or will be, or
There's only one.
okay.
The rest. So there's four kids between Greg and George. 4 kids that have been active in the business, and they all grew up working in the business through college, after college. But 3 of them have left and have started up their own businesses.
Okay.
One up in northern Minnesota, in Grand Rapids area, is doing really well. And George has 2 kids, son and daughter, Grant and Desi, and they started up a business that they actually moved to Tennessee
Oh my
and
goodness.
started up a hauling business in Tennessee and are off to a great start. So we got one left who's actually the oldest, and he runs our operations and does an outstanding job.
Operations, that's not easy.
Yeah, so he's got all of our drivers reporting to him, and so everything that revolves around that side of the business and our transfer station. And yeah.
So then what happens when you decide that it's time to step down and go to your next act?
Yeah.
Do you have a delegation plan for the next leader for the future?
Yeah, so we've been talking, because I'm not going to be around forever.
Yeah, none of us are.
And that's pretty well known.
Yeah.
At least with the family.
Sure.
And some of our senior leaders. Now after this, if people listen to it, they'll know they'll know as well that I'm not going to be around forever. But we've had discussions for a few years about succession planning and what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so part of my charter, and I think it's any strong business leader needs to focus on creating shareholder value and building the systems and the processes and building the team to be able to have as much of a seamless exit as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So we spent quite a bit of time, coming from a PE background, coming from a Target background where it's just, go, 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 go. I was at Target during the Bob Ulrich years when it was, the motto internally was speed is life. And it was the amount of stores that were being built every year. Michael Francis was the CMO, so that's when Target really. So it was kind of the heyday of Target's growth, and it was go go go. Then working for PE guys who always have here's our exit, here's what our plan is.
Yes.
How do we get from point A to point B?
Milestones.
And then sort of moving into that different kind of the family owned business where there's long term thinking, but still I came in knowing that my job is to have we got to start thinking about a plan. We need to increase shareholder value always. That has to be top of mind. We need to put systems in place. We need to have the right people in the right seats, all those kinds of things. So I think we're positioned really well for, my eventual exit. We made a couple of moves kind of in anticipation of planning for that, but it's at least at a senior level and with our board and certainly with Greg and George, it's a constant conversation. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I'm assuming you guys have made some acquisitions over the years, or
we early on when Greg and George started the business, they did a number of actually a great number of very small acquisitions because at the time there were a lot of individual small guys that had one or two trucks, so they bought routes that way.
Sure.
But during my tenure, we've done some acquisitions of certain routes from some of our competitors, but have never bought a company.
Sure.
We've been looking.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of our industry has gone through tremendous consolidation.
Yes.
So we have, Waste Management, Republic
Huge.
Services, Waste Connections, the big publicly traded guys.
Yeah.
And they are always out trying to acquire companies. So there's really not many left.
Is Ace still around?
Ace is, yes. Ace Solid Waste, great company. They're actually owned by Waste Connections.
I see.
Yeah.
So they got acquired.
Yeah, as is Dick's Sanitation. I don't know if you're familiar with Dick's. They're down in Lakeville.
Heard of them.
They're big like us, independent, but Waste Connections bought them as well.
I knew Randy's Sanitation.
Randy's was a great company. Still great, but they were bought by Republic Services, which is, our industry. Everybody knows each other. It's a great industry.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the challenges that you've faced over the years in being a non-family member and leading a company, growing the company. I'm sure that would be insightful for a lot of our listeners who are also, advisors to family business.
So I've been very fortunate knowing a lot of I'm part of a CEO peer group, and a number of the leaders that are in my peer group are similar situations where they are non-family leaders of family businesses.
Sure.
Some of them have tremendous challenges. Things, perception of bias with family members and all those kinds of things from the team going, well, you're favoring Johnny because he's, part of the family. I don't have any of those issues to deal with, so it's been really good. But that being said, there are certainly some challenges, and navigating family dynamics is one of them because while there's a lot of love in the family and it's very tight, everybody's got a different personality. Everybody's got a different viewpoint. Now with Gen 2 coming in also as owners. So George and Greg have started to give ownership to their kids. So they're on the board of advisors now and invited to all of our strategic planning meetings. So just having more voices and opinions that dynamic is always challenging. We talked a little bit about sort of that succession uncertainty, and that was a big challenge early on because I was constantly getting pinged by the kids all the time. What's next for me? What's next for me? What's next for me? And dads are going, well, we're not really ready yet to peel anything off to you or So I was caught in the middle, but we've solved for that, which is great. But I think the biggest challenge is, and I think it's a challenge, but it's also a benefit, is constant communication.
Mm-hmm.
Constant communication, and I think we found a really good rhythm. At a very high level from starting when I started, we formally started a board of advisors.
Excellent.
So we have quarterly board meetings, which are outstanding and very critical. Down to weekly, we're an EOS company.
Good.
Follow Traction EOS, so we have our weekly cadence with those meetings,
Sure,
which
your
have proved
L10s.
valuable, our L10 meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And with Greg and George, as they've sort of phased out of the day-to-day in the business, keeping them in the loop and making sure that they understand what's going on. So we pretty religiously meet every other week for lunch. When they're in town, when they're traveling, we try and set up Zoom meetings so we can always stay in touch. And in between then, there's a lot of phone calls. So early on, I realized that I don't own the business; they own the business, and it's perhaps my biggest job is to make sure that they're informed. And we've got a kind of a phrase that we use that's, good news fast, bad news faster.
Yeah.
And so
that's a good motto.
Yeah, communication is I think, can be a challenge, but I think we've figured that out.
That's good. Yeah, I think if there's one thing in anything in life, right, any industry, any relationship, the quality of it is going to be as high as the quality of the communication.
Yeah.
When that's remiss, when that's not there, or sporadic, then the result of it is going to be kind of chaotic and right assumptions, misunderstandings.
Absolutely.
And things fall through the cracks, and yeah.
And even back in my private equity days when I was at Archway, the PE firm was in New York and in just outside of D.C. Where the people were, and so remote 100% of the time, unless we got together we had quarterly board meetings where we'd meet up, and so I learned very quickly with that pace that we need to be completely transparent, and I think that's critical advice for anybody is communicate always.
Right.
Good news, bad news.
And good, philosophy there, too, around transparency, because nobody wants the guesswork, and that tends to backfire anyway, right?
Yeah, and it builds trust, too.
Definitely, yeah. And I think trust is measurable. I've talked about that on this show before, in that when trust is not present, things tend to take longer, right? Mm-hmm. And if they take longer, especially if you're working with outside advisors, it costs more. So trust can be measurable in that way. When it's present, you can move a little quicker.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, darn it, we've reached the end of this interview here, Mike. Darn it, I just have really enjoyed.
Flies.
Oh my gosh, there's so many more questions I had for you. So if you'd like, I'd like to have you back on the show later in the year.
Sure, I would love
It'd be
that.
super fun.
I would love that.
Yeah. Any key tips or pieces of advice that you could share with our listeners, real quick?
Well, I think, real quickly, I think one, having worked in large, big, well-established business, kind of developing that business operating system, especially for smaller business, is key. So we're as I mentioned earlier, the Traction EOS followers. It's been absolutely a game changer for our business in terms of accountability, really forcing yourself to look at right people, right seats, all those things around systems and scalability, accountability. Right. So that's one key thing. Whether it's Traction EOS, there are others, but find that system as opposed to just everything being haphazard.
Yes.
So that would be one. And I think the other one would be don't hesitate to you mentioned consultants, but don't hesitate to use consultants or external experts as needed. And I think that's consistent. I've got this great book here called Poised for Exit, which is a great book. After when you and I first connected, I bought it and I read it. It's a great book. But you mentioned here too, don't hesitate to use experts, and I think smaller businesses hesitate to do that.
They do. Yeah.
It was a challenge I had early on, and thankfully I had. Before I had built that trust with Greg and George, I would say, "Hey, we need to get some experts here to do this." Oh my God, they're not revenue. They don't generate revenue. I don't want to spend any money on it.
Yeah.
So I had to do some convincing there, but I had the people that are on our board of advisors would say, "Hey, wait a minute here. You might have to open up your checkbook a little bit," and it do that. I would highly recommend, where appropriate.
Yeah.
Don't think you know everything. Bring in experts as needed.
Exactly. Well, and it many times can actually prevent you from leaving money on the table or wasting money or wasting time when you've got somebody who can actually come in and provide those kinds of tips and expertise, for sure. Well, Mike, thanks for being on the show. Really, really.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
really
First time doing a
appreciate
podcast. It was a lot of fun.
You sailed right through. So,
Great.
And thanks everybody for listening to the show. Please do share this episode with your colleagues and friends, and join us again next time.